Okay. Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very sorry for the delay. Technology does baffle a lot of us, and as you can see, there's a big setup here at Ashbourne Town Council Chambers and the lines. Due to the fact that we are starting approximately 10 minutes late than normal, then I will run the 2.5 hours scheduled as our general meeting and then bring in the guillotine and possibly moving on for the next half an hour, which will go to about 10 past an hour if we get to that stage. So just to warn members now, if that's okay. I'm not so sure, we're all in a new place. We don't know, there isn't supposed to be a fire, but if you hear the alarm, then please do use the exits that you see closest to you and make your way out onto the collection point. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll start on these. Thank you. So we're here tonight for the full council of the district to be held here at Worksworth, Leisure Centre. Chair? You can't hear anything. Okay. Echo, I believe so. Is try again. Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay, right, okay, we'll go on to item 1. Apologies, please.
Hill, Raw, and Swinburne.
Okay, thank you. Item 2, public participation. To enable members of the public to ask questions, provided they have given prior notice before 12 noon. I do believe we have got some public members. So I would like to invite Councillor Sarah Spencer or Councillor Denise Brown from the Ashbourne Town Council to come forward. They want to make some comments on item 12, Gypsy and Travellers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ashbourne Town Council object to the Fish Pond Meadow being used as a traveller's site, temporary or otherwise. Trade in the town has suffered immensely during the COVID pandemic, and a traveller's site so close to the town centre will certainly have a negative impact on visitors, tourists, local people shopping in the town and the traders. The close proximity to the residential areas of Lakeside and Shawcroft flats will have a detrimental impact on the residents, many of whom are elderly or vulnerable. The area needs to be opened up for its original intended use, which is a car park. Ashbourne is already in desperate need of additional parking that the Fish Pond Meadow provides during the summer season. Ashbourne Town Council are concerned about the ongoing costs associated with the maintenance and continual clean-up of the areas inhabited by travellers. The cost of the temporary traveller site will no doubt be paid for by the residents of the town. Ashbourne Town Council respectfully ask Derbyshire Dales District Council to consider the loss of revenue they will suffer from the car park not being used for parking. The cost of the clean-up, the visual impact of the site, the loss of the recreational amenities to the fish pond itself, the surrounding playing fields and footpaths, along the inevitable loss of trade on an already struggling town. The area is also unsafe at the moment for public and travellers alike, with some areas already being fenced off for safety. Thank you.
I'd like next to call Dr. Siobhan Spencer, who is representative of Derbyshire Gypsy and Liaison Group. Thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. Funny enough, I was having a bit of a sort out today. I found a possession notice for 1993 and another for 1999. I'm thinking, crikey, we're getting on now to a quarter of a century before we've actually found a site for these families that have been travelling in Derbyshire Dales for quite some time now. All avenues have now been exhausted. There needs to be a site made now before winter. These families were identified in the 2008 GTAA, and again it was updated, and we're now coming to that being 13 years ago. We've lost one of the pensioners who would have benefited greatly from the site, where he could have access to water and electricity in the final years of his life. We talk about elders, and we can talk about lunch clubs, no golden year events, and no relaxing retirement. It's a struggle every day for basic needs, electricity and water. And I hope the committee will look kindly on the decision to continue with the site at Knabhall Lane. As you may all be aware, DGLG tried to obtain a site privately in the south, but unfortunately something happened left the field which just scuppered the plans. In the meantime, we've got to think about negotiated stopping, and I think it is a fair way when we look about distributing that across the whole of the Derbyshire Dales. Occasionally there is a need for one part of this family to be down in the south of the county because they've got support there. We're looking at families that have got ever decreasing needs when it comes to health and social welfare needs. Both I, Councillor and Tim Brown, explained the situation to the families, and we have an excited 8-year-old now who's never had the joy of turning her own tap or the switch for electricity. And as you can appreciate, it's very hard for somebody at that age to continue in the travelling way of life. It's come to a time when she's desperate for actually having a nice sort of like retirement. I know that there was worry from the families about the roads around Tansley, and that was addressed, I feel, by our talk on Monday, because that is one of the things we've got to make sure that site is accessible. The site will need a contamination report in relation to past use, and I believe that's on the agenda today. I've often asked the sites not to be on or by use tips, but at times we do have to reuse land. And as an example, DGLG did get a site passed in Linton, which was on a tip that has made a nice valley site. The Derby site is Hawthorne Street, now successfully is a 16-pitch site. We went through all the planning process with contamination reports, and that's something that will be needed. But we really do need to say tonight that this is it. We've got to have a site because these families can't continue. And I think I've said this before in previous years. We can't do another winter. We can't do another winter. And I wouldn't like to lose this pensioner before we actually get somewhere so she can turn the tap. Thank you.
I'd like to call Mr. Graham Elliott, an Ashbourne local resident. Thank you. Clear earlier that you've got 3 minutes to speak, so I do apologise.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to address the issue of the travel side, and I don't disagree that certainly progress needs to be advanced quickly with the Tansley side. Obstacles appear to have been raised with regards to contamination, but I'm sure the planning officers of this council are fully aware that such issues are regularly overcome by national developers when building houses. So for this site, it should not be an issue that is difficult to overcome. In terms of the moving of the travellers from their current site to others, personally it appears to be an ill-conceived proposal. In causing disruption to them, but also cost to the council taxpayers. You quote costs of £10,000 in security. I put it that that would be far better spent advancing the current proposed site at Tansley. In respect of Ashbourne, the Overspill car park, it is subject to flooding, it's well known. Whilst cars can park on one part of it or another, you cannot keep moving caravans around a flooded site, and it's certainly not safe for them to do so. And in respect of the businesses within the town, they are trying to regenerate after many of them having to close due to the COVID restrictions. And to restrict the parking in the town yet further would be a hindrance to that. Also, one of the issues being discussed, I believe, this evening is allowing parking to take place without charge for part of the year. If that should coincide with travellers on any of these sites, then it would be counterproductive and a sheer waste of money. I think the sooner the current site at Tansley can be advanced, the better it will be both for the individuals concerned and remove a lot of concerns for residents within the district. Thank you, Madam.
Now I'd like to move on, continue with public participation. These are talking on item 15, which is Black's Head, Ashbourne. Again, I would like to call up Councillor Sam Spencer or Councillor Denise Brown.
Thank you, Chair. This one isn't as long as the last one. Ashbourne Town Council voted unanimously to ask Derbyshire Dales District Council to consider giving complete ownership of the Black's Head and Gallows to Ashbourne Town Council for its future preservation and conservation of its historical value. Ashbourne Town Council will liaise with the Secretary of State with regard to its listing, its removal and future display. Public comments made to Ashbourne Town Council have requested the head is returned to the town in which it has been for a long, long time and belongs to, which is Ashbourne. Thank you very much.
Next, I'd like to call up Ms. Dawn Lewis, please. President.
Thank you. Clifton Parish Council and Ashbourne Town Council have asked for clarification on the legality of removing the head from the Green Man and Black's Head Gallows. To date, I have not seen a response from Derbyshire Dales District Council to these requests, and I am concerned that councils are being asked to make decisions without knowing the legal implications. It's clear from some of the comments that have been received by Derbyshire Dales District Council and from many comments in social media that there is a strong desire for the local people to make the final decisions. Councils are elected to represent the electorate. The Derbyshire Dales District Council's consultation does not appear to include the local electorate. Therefore, I would suggest that their views are not being represented. Ashbourne Heritage Society does not represent my views, or indeed the views of many other local residents. And I fully support Ashbourne Town Council in asking to take ownership for Ashbourne. Thank you.
And finally, I call upon Mr. Graham Elliott again, Ashbourne local resident, to speak now.
Thank you, Madam. There has, over the past 12 months, been extensive discussion and debate concerning the Black's Head, and the issue tonight is what should be done with it and the Green Man gallows sign. Both of them were listed as Grade 2 Star 70 years ago, and that's probably longer than most people in this hall tonight. And the gallows sign and the head have existed as a prominent image in Ashbourne for centuries. They have formed part of the heritage of the town, and just as the Royal Shropshire football game is an integral part of the character of Ashbourne, so are the gallows sign and the Black's Head. They should be returned to the people of Ashbourne, and the Town Council has stated that it is willing to accept ownership of them. They should be there for present and future generations as a reminder of the town's history, and so that Ashbourne's residents and visitors can discuss them, learn from them and understand them, and that certainly would comply with the guidance from central government at the moment. As part of the consultation that has taken place, Ashbourne Heritage Society has stated its willingness to provide a narrative to explain and educate future generations about the sign and the Black's Head. The overwhelming majority of the response to the consultation state that they support the return of the figure to Ashbourne and that its ownership and care should be given back to the town. I appreciate that there is a vociferous minority that disagrees, but the purpose of the consultation was to ascertain the views of the majority from Ashbourne and the surrounding parishes, and their views for it to be returned to Ashbourne are overwhelming. I'm afraid to say that the District Council has failed in its legal obligation to maintain a listed structure. It's in a poor state of repair, and giving ownership to Ashbourne Town Council will ensure that this neglect ends and an iconic sign and the Black's Head are preserved for future generations. It would also remove a financial obligation from this council in terms of its obligations to carry out maintenance and any proposed applications and negotiations with Historic England. I pose a proposal to delegate to officers the future action to be taken affecting the gallows sign or the Black's Head. The subject not only needs to be dealt with openly, but be seen to do so. Chair, I would therefore ask that this council agrees to transfer ownership of the sign and the figure of the Black's Head to the Ashbourne Town Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elliott.
Just before we begin the proceedings for this evening, can I just make raise a point of information or indeed intervention? I hope everybody in the room can hear me, because I'm one of those members that have to wear hearing aids. And I thought the sound in the room this evening would be somewhat improved since comments were made the last time we met here. Last time I didn't find it too bad, but there were difficulties. This evening I am finding it difficult. It may be the fact that the speakers are somewhat upwardly pointing and the sound is getting lost in the high ceiling here. But I'd like to make a very special plea to the committee team, if you would allow me. When we've held Zoom meetings, questions from the public and others have always been shown on screen. That makes it so much easier to follow the proceedings. Can I make the plea that if the meetings that continue from now on, that members are provided with paper copies of these questions? I know that they are on the laptops, and I did note some of them earlier this evening, but some of the questions this evening I didn't find on the laptop. But again, I'm one of those members who don't constantly carry my laptop around with me. I rely on the paper copies, and I'm very grateful for those. They make it so much easier for me. So a special plea, if I may, to Jason and his team, that we have paper copies of the questions in future.
Thank you for bringing that attention forward. I don't know how we can make hearing any better for yourselves, whether the speakers could be moved a little bit towards you, I don't know. Would that be possible? Okay. Can you actually hear me, Councillor Ratcliffe?
The best thing you can do, like you said, is you talk straight into your microphone, bring it as close as possible.
Sorry. Right, Councillor Ratcliffe, can you actually hear me? Thank you. Give me a thumbs up. Thank you.
I can, but
I've not
what
got
helps with these microphones is if the people do speak into them rather than coming back in a chair and just hoping that the sound is big. You've got to be very deliberate with them.
Okay, thank you.
And I thank you for your indulgence.
No, not a problem. We're here to accommodate everybody. What's the point of you being here if you can't hear anything to give any judgment on? Thank you. Okay, right. With regards to the public participation, they were members wishing to make their own comments. I don't believe they came as questions, but I do have a question from Mr. Darren Archer, who's an Ashbourne local resident. I don't know whether you have all had a hard copy on your table. Can you acknowledge whether you have or not? Okay, with that I take it as a no. So I'm going to read this question out. I wish to submit the following questions for the council meeting to be held on the 8th of July. I do not wish to appear or to speak at the meeting. How long do you expect it to be until the proposed permanent site will be ready, and as such, will these temporary stopping places be in place until the permanent site is ready? Question 2. Under what legislation can the District Council designate a negotiated stopping place? This is not explained in the officer report. Question 3. What happens should the travellers choose not to move onto the next temporary site after the 8-week period on one site has ended, and what will be the process or the potential costs incurred for forcing the travelling family to move on? Within this, I will respond to the questions with the answers that I've got in front. As question 1, as regards how long, it is difficult to provide an exact time frame as there are a number of steps to go through. 1, undertaking the land contamination assessment and responding to any further recommendations. 2, information from utilities, private water supply assessment, completion of an appropriate design, planning application. And 6, if approved, tender for works and 7, the construction. The answer to the second question about legislation, under the Housing Act of 1996, a Gypsy and Traveller is homeless if they do not have a lawful place on which they can put their caravan or living vehicle. If a gypsy or traveller is homeless, then the local authority must offer them suitable accommodation. If permanent accommodation is not available, then the local authority needs to provide suitable temporary accommodation. Answer to question 3. What happens if they don't want to move or live elsewhere? If a decision is made that an encampment should cease at one location and move to another, it is expected that the family concerned will cooperate. If they do not, then the council may use its existing powers under either the Civil Procedures Rules or the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 1994. The cost will depend on whether we apply for an order of procession in the county court or for an eviction of traveller through the magistrate court. In the county court, the issue fee is £355 and bailiff fee is £121. In the magistrate court, there is no cost. There is no issue fee, and we have to use private bailiff firms, which is approximately £600 to £1,000, depending on the number of bailiffs, traveller and time taken. For very large evictions, it can be a lot more than that. Okay. I then move to item 12, Gypsy and Traveller, and item 13, stimulating town centre post-COVID-19. A statement and question from Practice Parsons, Bakewell, Summertime, local resident. We are summer residents in the Bakewell area but have been unable to come for obvious reasons. On the subject of fees or parking fines in the town area, it would seem it is a sensible plan to allow vehicles parking without fees or fines, just to support the regrowth of town businesses through COVID. For the future's benefit, holding to current rules made for easier times, it is not practical. Has the council considered a small multi-passenger vehicle pick-up point to carry shoppers in if parking in town is tight? On subject to the Gypsy and Traveller, on an ongoing problem, possibly now influenced on a larger scale by out-of-workers, are there farms of large landowners interested in helpful to opening any out-of-the-way area for the purpose of these sites, perhaps encouraged with a small stipend from the local council? Would very much like to know the outcome of these discussions, please. Thank you. And the response to this one is, in relation to the question about the Gypsy and Traveller site, the council is committed to helping to find a permanent site for the families to whom it owes an homelessness duty. As part of that commitment, we have issued several calls for sites. So far, this process has not produced a single site that could be developed for this purpose. However, we would be pleased to talk with any landowners about this matter. That concludes that part of the public participation. Right. We now move on to item 3. Approval of minutes of the previous meeting, which was the annual council meeting on the 27th of May 2021. Do you have that? Councillor Atkins?
Yes, I'll move it.
Councillor Donnelly? All in favour? Against? Abstentions? Thank you. Unanimous, thank you. Item 4, interest.
like to declare an interest in item 9, house-to-house collections, as it is a public bill.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yes, Chair. Item 12, pecuniary interest is our business interest in terms of the village itself. So I'll leave the room and return after the debate.
Okay. I would like to declare an interest on the item 15, Black's Head, due to the fact of being a member of the Town Council. Councillor Wayne.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a non-pecuniary interest similar to the Council Wayne, and I do help out with the public appeal. Thank you.
Are there any more? Councillor Lees.
Likewise, Chair, I have interest as well in the public bill as well.
Are there? Councillor Hughes.
As I also help out with the public appeal application.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to make any declaration of interest? Okay, thank you. Those have been noted. We now move on to item 5, leaders' announcements. I will turn over to Councillor Bird. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear me? Can you hear me fine? Thank you. As brief, Chair, tonight, I want to touch upon the government's recent announcement of the opening up. I have to say that I do not agree with some of the recommendations by government. My concern is for the health and safety of the staff and our members. I do believe that we should have had some instruction on wearing a mask, the continuation of washing hands and social distancing. So in that regard, as leader, I take huge responsibility for the care and welfare of staff and members. And in that regard, I do welcome the Chief Executive's cautious approach to the return of staff and members in the future. And I envision that we will continue with these social distance meetings. I welcome the recent organisational update which was circulated to all members. I think it reveals the fantastic work that's being done by our staff in very difficult circumstances. And I hope you all agree with me, the amount of work that's being done is tremendous. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Item 6, Chairman's announcements. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Chair. Unsurprisingly, the COVID situation, I've not attended any meetings or anything or any functions. But I would just like to very briefly take the opportunity to inform members and anybody listening that I've decided to make my chosen charity the Air Ambulance. I think it's a very justified cause. They lost a lot of funds last year due to the fact that their shops were closed, and they serve the whole of the district, not just one area, and that's why I want to take the opportunity to raise some money. So I understand there's a lot of people in this room that have got a lot more experience than I, so it may be the time to come and ask for your help and assistance in your specific areas. I want it to be totally non-political. I want to raise as much money for that charity as I can, and I hope I have your help. And on one final thing, I visited Ashbourne this last weekend, and I'd like to compliment the town and its councillors on the atmosphere that was there. It was a bit showery, as we all know, but it was really wonderfully presented. There was some events there, and the town had an excellent vibe, and they should be congratulated. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Councillor Lane. I shall make sure I take that back to the Town Council and the members who organised the event in the meeting. Item 7, questions. Rule of Procedure 15. Sorry? This is different now, okay. I don't know whether you've all got hard copies, but if you're not, if you're prepared to listen to me waffle on again, then please do so. The question here is from Councillor Peter Slack to Councillor Purdy, the Leader of the Council. With the season coming round for fun fair and other events, and prizes of live animals are given as pets, mainly goldfish are given as prizes, and a great number of goldfish are sadly left in unsuitable plastic bags or fairground fairs, many of whom are won by children or their parents who are unprepared to take on a pet. Many of the goldfish are stressed in small plastic bags, and many die as a result of oxygen starvation. I am asking Councillor Purdy, as Leader of the Council, to agree with me that pets as prizes should not be allowed to take place on Derbyshire Dales District Council owned land. I am looking to bring a motion to Council at the earliest opportunity to officially ban pets for prizes from Derbyshire Dales District Council owned land. This is supported by the RSPCA. Please give your response. I will turn to Councillor Purdy for him to give the response.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Slack, for your question. I've also been emailed as other officers and members through the week. The District Council simply does not allow fairs or any other events to use pets, which includes goldfish as prizes. The events team have discussed this matter with fair operators who are currently operating on our land and would have any pets, perhaps some goldfish, removed immediately if they were made aware of this happening. The District Council also does not allow the sale of pets on its markets or markets operating on District Council land. For further clarity, we are happy to include this clause clearly in all licences to occupy council land for an event, not just for fair operators. In addition, we are able to add it as a detail to the next version of the event strategy, which is due in April 22. So I do support your move, Councillor Slack.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Slack, do you wish to come back?
Just to supplement it. Thank you, Councillor Purdy, for your support. Just one query. Has this been through council? Has it been approved by the council, this policy? Search the minutes, but it must have been quite a long while ago when it was approved. Can we just check on that, please, if it's official policy?
I'm not aware of the answer to that, Councillor Slack. I'll have to ask an officer again and reply.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next question is from Councillor Steve Wayne to Councillor Purdy, the Leader. Last Saturday, I visited a very busy Ashbourne and parked on the Cockayne Avenue car park, and being conditioned to seek out a paying display machine, I was amazed to be informed that the parking was free. I later checked this out on the Derbyshire Dales website, which stated there were 119 free car parking spaces at this location, approximately 200 metres from the town centre. Upon further checking of the council website for free car parking at Bakewell and Matlock, none was apparent. As a district council for All Saints Matlock and Mayor, I am disappointed that there is no such provision in Matlock and other larger towns of the area. Matlock residents are saying they have rushed around the town and then go home. They add that they would have stayed in the town longer if parking charges were not an issue. This has been exacerbated by the removal of the 14 free places on Edgefold Road. I don't know the history of why the Ashbourne car park is free. It may be because of the sports pavilion use, but most of the people parking there were heading into town, which from our perspective was a pleasure to visit. I do not wish to remove this benefit from the people of Ashbourne, but feel it would be an excellent opportunity to promote the image of the council whilst being fair to all. Why can't and likewise in Bakewell and other towns. Would this council not wish that all residents have the same opportunity and benefit as the residents of Ashbourne, thereby enabling local businesses to bounce back from the pandemic? Councillor Bird, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There is no such thing, thank you for the question, Councillor. There is no such thing as free parking, only free at the point of use. There are costs involved managing and maintaining all our council car parks. Those that are free at the point of use, such as Cocking Avenue in Ashbourne, are subsidised by other car parks which are chargeable. Parking income generated throughout the district is crucial to the council's ability to continue to run its services. The council provides all residents a permit. This allows them to use the car park free of charge after 4 p.m. and before 11 a.m. This leaves the car park to be used by tourists or other users during peak times. As Councillor Wayne will have seen, there is a recommendation on the table tonight to help extend the tourist season across the 4 market towns and Knabhall Lane by providing an option to provide free parking after 2 p.m. for all car park users, which is the same offer we also provided previously in the month of December.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey, for that response. I appreciate that we do get free parking between certain hours, up to 11 and after 4. But we have a captive audience, and it's called our community. And within that community, people that want to go and shop 12 months of the year, not just for 1 month. And I do appreciate that the council, will maybe discussing later, offering a month's grace. Can you identify what subsidies have been given and what the benefits are to Knabhall and Bakewell from the car parks that are subsidised? What car parks are subsidised in the car parks in Knabhall? There aren't any free car parks in Knabhall or Bakewell, and that seems a disparity to me. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get the gist of your question. I'm asking for information on subsidies of car parks in Knabhall particular. If you could frame the question, and I'll get an officer to respond in writing, because I haven't got the answer to that.
Yeah, should I'll contact the officer tomorrow.
I appreciate that.
I'll say that to you, but say anything else this evening. Thank you.
That would be helpful, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next, I move on to a question from Councillor Knabhall. This is to Gareth Leader. As councillors, we are, I think you would agree, often the conduit between, often the conduit between officers and the residents of the Derbyshire Dales. As such, we are right, I think there's something being missed there. Doesn't seem to sound sense. I'll start again, it's my me. As councillors, we are, I think you would agree, often the conduit, between officers and the residents of the district council, Derbyshire Dales. As such, we are likely to hear a variety of options from residents on how they view the performance of both the organisation as a whole and individual officers. In your opinion, as leader of the council, how should a councillor treat negative views expressed by residents, both of the organisation and or individual officers? And secondly, at the last table, we'll take that one first. So, could I have a response, Councillor?
Certainly, thank you for the question, Councillor Campbell. Each council operates differently and will have their own thoughts and approach to dealing with issues and complaints. However, an approach that I believe to be quite common across local governments would be for such concerns to be taken seriously by councillors and raised with the relevant director or with the chief executive, who can then investigate the concerns to establish what action, if any, needs to be taken.
Councillor Campbell, would you like to come back on that point? No, that's all right, thank you. Thank you. This is still from Councillor Campbell, item 2 within this question to Councillor Purdy. At the last planning meeting, you application at Brassington should be refused in line with officer recommendation. On the basis it would create a precedent for building in open countryside. In 2018, you chaired a planning meeting with a very similar application, also in Brassington, that had an officer recommendation of refusal on the grounds it was building in open countryside. Approval for that application was voted through with the only one abstention. Both you and Councillor Atkin were present, so at least one of you must have voted against officer recommendation. This was based on the view there was a gateway to Brassington and that houses on the edge of the village form this. Would you agree this set a precedent?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Before I give you the answer, just make a statement. I don't know whether to take it as flattering or disconcerting into what I said some years ago. Planning decisions are often made on balance by weighing up the number of competing factors. If I'm thinking of the correct application from 2018, I believe that this was presented to committee by officers precisely because such a fine balance existed. If I remember correctly, officers recommended refusal, and the vote went against officers, and it was 10 for the motion and 1 abstention. The issues presented by development outside of the village were counteracted by an opportunity to improve an unsightly brownfield site and to deliver visual improvement from the architectural quality of the proposal. As such, it was different to the more recent decision quoted in this question and did not set a precedent. As you've been told on your plan of training, Councillor Campbell, each case should be treated on its merit.
So if we treat each application on its merit, then each application has the opportunity to set a precedent. Why are you happy that this one wasn't, and yet the last precedent application didn't? I noticed there's one of the considerations you say was unsightly site. If I remember right on that committee, it was actually Councillor Fitzherbert that actually voted against officer recommendation because he thought it would tidy up an untidy site. We have 2 applications, both of which will tidy up an untidy site, both at opposite ends of the gateway to Brassington, but strangely one would set a precedent to building over the countryside, but the other one wouldn't.
I repeat, Councillor Campbell, each case is different. Each case is treated on its merit. No one case is the same. There are councils here that have been on planning longer than I am and telling the same thing.
How is it possible to set a precedent? Sorry. Yeah. We do have another question from yourself, Councillor Knabhall. This is directed to Councillor Atkin, Chairman of the Planning Committee. On the same item, it was questioned what connection of the applicant to the village was when I stated that the applicant had run a business at the site for 15 years because it was written without any qualification in the officer's report. I was informed this was information that could not be relied upon. Would you agree that all information in the officer's report that members use to make planning decisions should be information that can be relied upon? I should turn to, I believe, it does say, Councillor Atkin.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for your question, Councillor Campbell. The planning officer's report reads, whilst the agent says the business has been run from the existing agricultural buildings for 15 years, there is no planning history in relation to this business, and the requirement for its extension and expansion has not been successfully justified in this unsustainable location and the resultant impact on rural character. This makes it clear that the claim that the business has been run from the location for 15 years
was made by the applicant's agent, and there was no planning history to either support the same or disprove it. As such, the information in the report was qualified, but can be relied upon in terms of reporting the information submitted by the agent.
Councillor Campbell, would you like to comment?
So, thanks for that. I'll go back and have a look at the report, but thank you, Councillor Ackland.
Thank you. I take that as closed all questions from the floor. Thank you. So with that, we will now move on to items on the agenda. Item 8, review of alcohol regulated entertainment and late night refreshment licensing policy for 2021 to 25. I'll bring it to that. Excuse me, Tim, just stop. I must admit I can barely hear you, so I know obviously the members of the back won't be able to. So maybe, I don't know, who's controlling up there and possibly close it a bit closer.
Can't see that, so raise your hand if you're talking.
Sorry.
Hello? Yeah, sounds better. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. This is a referred report from the Licensing and Appeals Committee, and it deals with the policy that the Council has to deal with applications for alcohol, entertainment and refreshment house licences. This is a policy that has to be reviewed and re-approved every 5 years by the Council. It can't be approved by the Licensing and Appeals Committee, it has to come here for that final approval. The policy has been consulted upon, 6 comments were received. It was considered again by the Licensing and Appeals Committee in its amended state and was approved for passing through to the Council here, hopefully for final approval. I have nothing else to add, but if there are questions, I'm happy to take them.
Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I have a question about cumulative impact. This is really raised by Councillor Flitwick, who asked me to raise it. He said, I understand that there are no special policies associated with cumulative impact at the moment. Matlock, in terms of Dale Road, has a large number of licensed establishments, and we believe that potentially there is a need for such a special policy in Matlock, in Dale Road. Can I ask Mr. Braund how we establish such a special policy and whether he believes Dale Road would be applicable to Dale Road? Thank you.
Just give you a sec to turn the sound up. Can you turn the sound?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Yes, cumulative impact, the issue of cumulative impact as it relates to Dale Road, the central map has been brought up before. As things stand, there is no evidence to support a cumulative impact policy in terms of a history of recurring complaint. We are aware that complaints do happen, but not the level of complaint that could be relied upon to support such a policy. Obviously, over the last 15 months, that's been that level of complaints has reduced still further by the fact that a large amount of that time the premises have been closed. So again, the evidence doesn't exist at the moment. If that evidence does begin to come forward and can be substantiated, then it is possible to review the situation and introduce a cumulative impact policy into the main policy if supported. That would rely on complaints to ourselves, to the police, to other partners, and we know that's an issue. I have to keep it under review.
Thank you for that. Councillor Radcliffe, did you...
Thank you very much indeed, Chair. I have 2 interrelated questions to Tim, but I'd like to start by thanking him and Eileen Tim for all the work that they do for this council on that licensing, and particularly for the continuing notifications to members. They're much appreciated. They're not something that I regularly respond to, but they come with interest and they keep me well informed, so thank you for that. When we move to debate, Chair, I'd like to be noted as the person who moves this report and its recommendations, because I think they're well founded and it's good to know that we're updating our policies. So in that respect, one of the things I note, Tim, is that we use a very small number of fixed penalty notices to publicans for COVID transgressions. Were these in respect of visits that were made or complaints from the public? And allied to that, have the COVID regulations introduced any changes that have now become a policy formulation?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Ratcliffe. Yes, in relation to COVID, we have issued, I believe, 3 fixed penalty notices to premises now. Those have all been issued in partnership working with the police as a result mainly of receipt of complaints, visits by our officers and visits by police officers. 2 of those have been paid and one's in dispute at the moment for what it's worth. In relation to changes, we await to see what the government does in relation to changing the regulations that currently exist which set out how those premises may be used. Obviously it's been announced that there will be the removal of all restrictions in general terms. Whether those regulations will be revoked or amended is yet to be seen, and I can't comment at this stage. We can let members know when that happens.
Councillor Bright, sorry I missed your hand. Can you just put your hand up so that the people who are taking mics on so that they know who you are? Thank you.
I can talk now. Is that right? It was really, when we first got these government mandated regulations about businesses like bars and restaurants and pubs, we had an email from Tim setting out that we had these new powers to enforce fines. I requested that we use, I implored that we use the light touch, because these bars, restaurants, pubs have been closed for a huge amount of time, livelihoods have been destroyed. And I'm a bit concerned that we might not have used the light touch that we were supposed to use on these 3 cases. Should we really be fining people at a time where they have pretty much not traded for such a long period of time? So my question is, have we used the light touch or have we not?
Thank you, Chair. I'll wait a second, I'm online. There's only been 3 fixed penalty notices issued, which is not a huge number. 2 of those were issued in respect of premises which repeatedly opened when they were supposed to be closed, when they weren't allowed to open at all. They received advice about that beforehand, both from ourselves and from the police. The 3rd one of those fines has been issued in relation to premises which have been warned a number of times, again by the police themselves, over controlling the behaviour of patrons. There are multiple complaints about those premises from residents, from the police, and from enforcement officers. The advice was ignored, and in the end it was in view of officers that in those particular circumstances there was little option but to issue a fixed penalty notice. That is our job. The vast majority of premises have received advice from officers, both from ourselves and from the police, and have complied with that advice. There's been no case in which we've gone in and issued a fixed penalty notice without a good deal of less formal work beforehand.
Thank you for that. Are there anybody else wishing to make any question? Councillor Slack, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dick, for all what you do at your department. Very good indeed. In the licence, in your objective, the prevention of crime and disorder is 1, public safety is 2, prevention of public nuisance is 3, and protection of children from harm is 4. On 2.5, the licence authority recognises there is no public health licensing objective, therefore cannot conduct the licensing for
job is to work according to the law that's set down by government. Government has decreed that public health is not a licensing objective. It's not within our power to impose that as a licensing objective. We do consult with the the County Council Public Health team currently over major events and any concerns they might have about spread of virus. It's not that they aren't able to use powers in the Licensing Act to regulate those events. They have to revert to powers that have been created in relation to the coronavirus regulations, for what it's worth, the number 3 regulations. So it is a government decision not to include public health as a licensing objective, and there's no authority that this council has to introduce that.
Thank you. It's a shame really because it is a growing issue now, public health, especially in licensed premises. So I think the government should take account of this. But I understand that we have
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Thank you. I don't believe there's any more questions. Councillor Radcliffe, you did make a point that you were prepared to move the recommendations. Is that the case?
This is a well-written report, brief and to the point, and we have an updated policy that I think will be very effective. And again, I congratulate the department at the team that covers for the work that he does.
Thank you. Councillor Lees.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to second this item as well represented and fully supported. Thank you.
Are there anybody else wishing to make any more comments on this? Then I will take it to vote, and I will show hands please for this motion. Against? Abstentions? One abstention. Then it's carried. Thank you. Move on to item 9. This is a referred item, introduction to the house-to-house and street collection for charity policy. Again, Mr. Timbrell.
Thank you, Chair. This is not an area of law I know as well as the Licensing Act, so I hope the questions aren't quite so detailed. However, again, another referred report. This is a new policy that has been introduced through the Licensing Appeal Committee to help inform those who organise street collections and house-to-house collections, charity collections in the street and from going house to house, as to what the expectations of the council are and how it will regulate those functions. Again, the policy is subject to consultation. A few comments were received and incorporated into the policy. It's been through licensing appeals who have referred it here for final approval. If there are any questions, I will do my best to answer.
Questions? No debate. If I find a proposer for this motion, Councillor Atkins.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'll move the recommendations set out in the report.
Is that by the second? Councillor Moore?
Second that, Chair.
It's proposed and seconded to take recommendations before you. All in favour, please show hands. Against? Abstentions? And that's carried unanimous. Thank you. Item 10. Provisional revenue and capital outturn of 2021. Revised revenue budget 21-22. Capital programme and medium-term financial plan update. That's a tongue twister in itself, but I'm going to move over to Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm presenting this in place of planning and so for everybody who doesn't know me, I'm Paul Ferrer, the Financial Services Manager.
Just a second. It's a bit awful, so maybe draw the mic a bit closer.
Apologies, Chair. Can everybody hear me? Thank you. I do have a little bit of pain for you, so apologies. So I'm assuming that members have taken the opportunity to read this report, but I will try to cover it in sufficient detail to highlight the key points to you. Firstly, I wanted to highlight to members that there are some other reports on today's agenda which do have financial implications. We're not including those items within this report, but we will update budgets for them if Council approves So it's quite a lengthy report, and you may have seen that it can be broadly split into 4 different categories. I'll start with the level of outturn. There have been a number of significant under and overspends across services this year, many of which were a direct consequence of COVID-19. When we set the revised budget in March, we anticipated that nearly £700,000 would need to be taken from the general fund and the funding uncertainties reserved to balance the budget for the financial year 2020-21. However, due to a number of grants being awarded by central government and an underspend on utilities of almost £150,000, this hasn't been necessary, and the council is instead in a favourable position where we are recommending to transfer approximately £18,000 into the funding uncertainties reserve to help the council in future financial pressures. A list of the main reasons for variance are included in the table in section 2.4, highlighting any which also result in a transfer to the earmarked reserves. The value of earmarked reserves are shown in Appendix 2, and they have increased significantly during the financial year from nearly 17.7 million to nearly 21 million. Of this increase, almost 5.6 million is due to the creation of reserves directly relating to COVID-19. We are recommending to members that we create a COVID funding reserve with a balance of 608,000 to help finance future unfunded pressures which arise as a result of the pandemic. Members advise that some prudence and caution be exercised on the use of this reserve as we remain uncertain on how the economic impact of the pandemic will continue. We have earmarked over 5.5 million of government grants and NLDR business rates relief into reserves. This is shown in table 2.11, and this will be utilised during the current financial year 21-22. This will be used primarily to pay business grants and to compensate timing differences in the collection fund, which would otherwise impact the Council's general fund this year. If I could move on to the capital outturn, in the 2021 financial year, the Council approved an overall capital budget of £10,386,944. This was revised early in the year to £7,790,985 as project delivery timelines became clearer. This level of expenditure was perhaps overly ambitious, and in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic and consequent restrictions on movement, by the end of the year we had spent £4,944,145. It's been spent on various projects, but there is a carry forward of £2,909,143 to fund ongoing projects that could not be completed last financial year. The main areas of investment were within the affordable housing scheme, vehicle renewal programme, the purchase of new vehicles for the waste disposal programme, and disabled facilities programme. Investment in our ICTs enabled our staff to work from home and ensure business continuity despite the unprecedented challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic situation has caused a lot of delays in the delivery of our capital programme, and the main schemes which have slipped are included in paragraph 3.4, but include the purchase of further fleet vehicles, including for the waste collection at a value of 1.1 million, and also energy efficiency green home grants worth at £880,000. It's anticipated that as government restrictions on movement and social and business interactions are lifted, the delivery of our capital programme will progress at a faster pace this financial year. Thirdly, I'd like to move on to the revised budget for 2021-22, that's the current financial year. Rather than take a formal revised budget at the end of the year in February or March, we now intend to maintain the revised budget throughout the financial year and will present it to members at various points. The first of that is this outturn report, and we'll also bring further budget monitoring reports at quarterly intervals throughout the financial year. This first date of the budget includes the impact of all expenditure which we have carried forwards at the end of last year via the committed expenditure reserve. This is being transferred back into services, which will give officers the ability to continue to spend on projects that have already been approved. The updated budget is presented in Appendix 6, and some of the details on the finance and supplemental budgets are included in Appendix 7. Members may recall that when the budget was set in March, we needed to draw down approximately £56,000 from the General Reserve. However, after updating the budget now, we are now proposing that the drawdown from the General Reserve will be £36,000, which is an improvement of £20,000. The reason for the improvement is due to the expectation of increased building control income and a reduction in the building control partnership fee. The final section I would like to cover relates to the medium-term financial plan, and that is covered in section 5 and presented in appendix 5. We've done a very light touch update to the MTFP to reflect the updates included in the revised budget. I'd like to point out to members that there remains considerable uncertainty about future funding for local government, and it's unlikely that the expected fair funding review and the review of business rates retention will be completed this financial year. This may mean that we receive a further one-year finance settlement for the financial year 22-23. Whilst we would prefer to have a multi-year financial settlement, which would give us more certainty and ability to plan, the initial feedback is that the government wants to include the impact of COVID-19 into the future funding reviews. Accordingly, we have not made any significant changes to the MTFP and remain prudent in our concerns about negative revenue support grants and also potential reductions in rural services delivery grants and new homes bonus. We're not currently recommending any immediate savings be rushed into, but continue to highlight that an indicative corporate savings target of £500,000 by the year 23-24 may be required if future final settlements are not favourable. However, in closing, I would like to point out that this is a positive report and the Council's financial position is strong. That covers the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Radcliffe, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. And if I may just begin, I don't think I've had the good fortune of meeting this officer before, so thank you for coming along and presenting this report on behalf of Karen. And welcome to the Council, of course, as I say, and I look forward to having further conversations with you. Can I say, just to begin with, a very quick comment, that overall, we're familiar territory with this report, noting the stranglehold that finance actually places on us, and the need for further savings that are going to have to be met. In relation to that, can I start off with a question to you to say, in my opinion, and I'd like to hear your reply, I think we should start to give consideration to more financing from reserves rather than relying on borrowing. So when there's a need for a capital project that perhaps leads to a form of return, income return, we should look to that source rather than what might prove to be somewhat costly, despite interest rates from borrowing. Secondly, I'd just like to ask you the question, COVID-19 came along very unexpectedly, but climate change has been around for a number of years and is predicted. Shouldn't we therefore be making more financial consideration for combating that and as I say, making more financial investment that leads to those beneficial outcomes, not only for ourselves, but for the whole of our region and country. And then just finally, again on the subject of COVID-19, I would welcome at some point in the future, when things have returned to some form of normality, and we're working again as we did in 2018-19, to give read some financial summary of the financial effects that this 18-month period has subjected this council to, and how financial some income expenditure framework surrounding the COVID crisis.
Thank you, Councillor. If I can come back on all 3 points in turn, I will do. For your first question, I'd like to point out to all members that we do not actively look to borrow anything for expenditure. We use our earmark reserves. We have a high amount of earmark reserves. They are earmarked for specific purposes, and we use them with the intention of what that purpose is. If for any reason we wanted to change it, we would report that we would report that through council to obtain permission to do so. Point 2, I understand COVID wasn't expected. I think it's fortunate that we're in a favourable financial position so that we could get through it. I think all members will be aware too that central government have been, financially they've helped their governments out considerably. There's been a lot of funds set up and a lot of grants awarded to us. Unfortunately, we didn't always get good information on what funding would become available and when that would be delivered to us. When we sent the revised budget back in March, there were hundreds of thousands of pounds that we didn't include because government hadn't passported that money onto us. The final amount that we received from government, we were notified about, was actually in May this year. So there's absolutely no way we could have predicted that before the 31st of March, which was the financial year end. I also know that you've spoken about the climate change and investment within that. As a council, we do have a climate change strategy and we have a significant capital programme. What we are doing is looking to invest to ensure that we can meet the needs of that climate change strategy. And finally, to your point about the financial summary and the impact of COVID-19 on the council, what we're doing at the moment is producing our annual statement of accounts. And within that, the income and expenditure that is spent by this council is included. That will need to be drafted and published in its draft form on the council's website by the 31st of July this year. That will be on there, and I intend to send a link to that to all councillors so that you are able to review our 110-page plus document if you wish to. However, the 18-month timeline, we will have to take a separate report when we're aware of when the COVID situation has ended, if that is the intention, because it spans financial years, but I see no reason why we can't do that. And we'll please accept this report and the monitoring reports and financial updates that we'll bring as updates, which is what they are intended to be. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Can I just explain when on the questions, can we go to questions? Because part of your question, Councillor Ratcliffe, or some of them, were lost within your comments as well. So let's have a question, and then when we go back into debate, your comments could be put forward, and then we don't lose what we're trying to turn out of the question, if you don't mind. Thank you. I'll move to Councillor Kirby. Not a question. Anybody else got any questions? Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Oh, I've lost my microphone there. I always get lost in this report, or reports like this, and I suspect other people may as well. But so my particular question is about the non-domestic rate collection fund surplus and deficit. And could the officer please explain how this occurs and its relationship to the line further up the page, transfers to from reserves related to the collection fund accounting. This is in Appendix 5. It's just for my understanding. Did we get money from central government to cover this amount? Would that go into reserves and then go from reserves into downstream? And why does it occur in 2022-23 as well as 2021-22?
Can you elaborate on which page you're actually looking at?
62, page 62.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the collection fund is a very technical and very difficult part of the accounting regime that underpins local government. It's extremely difficult to explain, but what I'll try and do is cover it in detail that perhaps we can have awareness of. It takes 3 years for the transactions through the collection fund to be predicted, to actualise, and then to be settled. So we've always got tiny differences that span those 3 financial years. What's happened this year is because businesses had to close down, rather than the normal business rates being collected by councils, a lot of great relief was granted by government, and to compensate councils for the loss of the significant income that they would have, we were granted Section 31 rate relief, which we have put into an earmarked reserve, and that's what we will see that's going through the medium-term financial plan. Now what we've done is put that into the earmarked reserve so that we can balance it, so that there is not a swinging surplus and deficit between financial years, and so that the council's sort of financial position is smoothed off. That wasn't a requirement that we did it that way, but it was strongly endorsed, and I believe that all councils up and down the country have done that to try and make the financial statements as simple as possible, accepting that they are far from simple.
Very much. Thank you.
Any more questions? And I'd like to move to debate. Councillor Bird.
Chair, I'll move the motion. Just like to thank Alex Scott, the leader of this council, and not the new leader down the road in Man Valley, in a conservatively taken over from the Labour administration because they've got the auditors in. So I do thank financial officers for their prudence in stating here, and I echo what I think the presentation we've got of 17.1 million. There are some cautionary notes, obviously, £500,000 to save. We've got the Borough of Serco, and if I may just respond to Councillor Radcliffe with regard to climate change, a report will be coming soon by our new climate change officer. She's presented to CLT. She's working on the final report for Clearly Need. As you remember, Clearly said we need to find £2 to £3 million, which will have to be applied for in funding of grants. So we'll have to stream that money in. So I look forward to that work starting. So I'll move the recommendations to you.
I'm the seconder. Councillor Hobson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second. Thank you, Paul and Karen and anyone else involved in producing this very readable report for those of us who aren't accountants. And I know even if you don't have questions tonight, obviously are always very willing to answer queries that you do have. As I said, I'm not an accountant, so I probably won't be reading that 110-page document. But this is a very accessible document. You know, you've expressed the prudence of our authority. You've not pulled any punches. I think all the members know we do have big savings to be made in these next few years without the uncertainty of COVID and recovery from that. But I am reassured and optimistic for the future with the plans that we've got looking ahead. So thank you.
Councillor Bryant.
Yeah, it's really just to say that I'm very impressed that a small team like ours can produce such a fantastic document, you know, in this difficult time. I just wish the current government would produce a cost-benefit analysis the way that I think you're going to do it, because I think you'll probably do a better job.
Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to make two brief observations on the report. The first one I've already referred to, and that's the capital programme outturn for last year. It was in May this year that we approved the revised capital programme for £7.8 million. And a month later we find that they were 37% underspent. In my opinion, this must be evident to officers in March when they asked us to approve the revised budget. So I'm a little bit disappointed that that was clear to us. Some may say this is just an accounting issue, but to me it's not a way of working. I hope we don't see in future years. The second point I'd like to make is that some time ago now we approved an additional around £100,000 a year in revenue to support the recruitment of an additional chief officer, and this has been reflected in our spending plans and ultimately in the amount of council tax that we ask residents to pay.
And council tax is being paid, but no appointment is being made. The same principle applies to the generation service, where last November we were asked urgently to go through additional expenditure for spend in the last financial year on the recruitment of new specialist staff, but we've yet to see the result of that. I'm not suggesting for one moment there's anything underhand here, but I think residents would be critical if they were aware that they're being asked to pay more in council tax and then it not being utilised. So I hope we can anticipate a report on these matters at the next council meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I deal with both of those questions. In regard to the previous approval from Council to allocate money in the budget for the appointment of the corporate director, that money has not been included in the budget for 21-22 because those proposals didn't find the support of Council following my withdrawal of my earlier report. So that has not impacted on the Council's budget in any way whatsoever. In regard to the restructuring of the economic development team, those proposals are still ongoing. As members will be aware, the economic development team for the last 18 months has been heavily engaged in distributing many millions of pounds of COVID business grants. So the actual dealing with the restructure, a staffing organisation issue, has not been top priority. Our priority is to be getting money into businesses that need it, but those proposals will come forward in due course. Thank you, Chair.
Is there anybody else wishing to make any comments? Then it has been moved and seconded, then we'll go to the vote. All in favour, please show. Against? Abstentions? I take that as unanimous.